Hey everybody, I want to talk to you all about a personal skill. This is a skill, not a personality trait, although I guess if you overuse it, it can become a personality trait, but it's mostly just a skill that I guarantee you probably do not use enough, and you should. And that is the skill of putting things back on people. And yes, it's a manipulation tactic, but it's also a skill. It can be more than one thing, as with many things in life. So what do I mean by putting things back on people? I mean this. Most people, pretty much all people, live through life by doing what they believe is right and correct for themselves and generally the people in their near immediate vicinity at any given time. Now, the motivations behind that are what is different. Some people are more self-serving than others. Some people are more narcissistic than others. Some people are more codependent than others, right? So if you're a codependent, as am I, when you tend to do things, you like to be the person who would do anything for anybody. You would give a stranger the shirt off of your back. The whole Good Samaritan thing, I grew up in the church, so we learned, J-O-Y, joy, the joy of Jesus. You put Jesus first, yourself last, and others in between, right? That was the domineering psychology of my childhood. Well, that kind of sort of leads to codependence, and I'll just leave that as the cliff notes for the last 40 years of my life. Now, what I mean by putting things back on people, well, and especially if you're a codependent or an empath, as is the nice term for it, you tend to, the validation you seek validation from others. You derive your value from how much you have helped somebody. So and it feels good to help people, right? But you start to derive your sense of self-esteem, your definition of self, your perceived value by how helpful you are to others, right? Because then you feel like you are being a productive human being, right? Which means when somebody comes at you with an accusation and you're like, no, I wasn't doing blah, blah, you immediately dive into defense of yourself because you think this person has misunderstood your intentions. Well, but they probably haven't. And that's the thing. You've been led to believe that when people get upset with you, that they have misinterpreted your good intentions. But no, because good intentions are very, very, very easy to interpret. And so when somebody comes at you like that, and you think that they've misinterpreted, you are wrong. I hate to tell you, but you are wrong. They have interpreted quite perfectly what your intentions are, and they have recognized that you are codependent, and they have recognized that you have utility for them, because not everybody's like you. We know that. And so why then do you put things back on people? Well, because when people step out like that, it's not of a misunderstanding. That is intentional aggression. And so one of the first things you need to say when somebody comes at you, and I'll give you an example. I'm here at the grocery store. Now, this did not happen, except in my mind, because sometimes you can read people's behavior. I was in the dairy section, and there was a lady who was just standing there staring, like just in front of all the milk, just taking up room. And she wasn't even really trying to make a decision. She was just, meditating on milk. And, I just slowly, went around her, kept my mouth shut, just went around her and went to the case in front of her, opened the door, got some milk, and moved on. And, I can feel the eyes on the back of my head, but I gave her to 10 Mississippi, and her feet never moved. It's milk, right? I mean, it's fucking milk. Everybody knows what kind of milk they drink. And if you don't, if you're having to think about it, sorry, get the fuck out of the way. But, I was nice. I didn't say anything. I minded my own business. She minded hers. But because of the shaping of my past, I could have easily felt like she was going to say something, you know, like, excuse me, right? Or just one of these indignant kind of things. And it's such a bad place from my past, right? But if, let's say, for example, if she had said something like, excuse me, yeah, typical man, just ignore, it's like, hello, you're just ignoring my presence. I was here first. You can't cut in line, right? Or something like that. When somebody says that, like, your immediate reaction would probably be something like, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead, right? My bad. And it's because you would have already felt like guilt or like something was not right with what you were doing, right? So you already sort of feel like that there's a miscommunication going on. And so when somebody leads out and says something like that, excuse me, I was here, right? It's already in your head that there's some miscommunication going on and you're kind of off the beaten path. And you're like, oh, I'm sorry. But then that's not really the way that you should respond if somebody says something like that. Like, hey, excuse me, I was here first. So why are you being aggressive? Why are you blocking everybody else's path? You're not doing anything, right? You question them, you put it back on them. You question their behavior back because they're not immediately innocent, right? There's this hack in human psychology, 2 hacks actually. Number 1 is, if you're wrong, I'm automatically right. I don't have to be right if you're wrong. All you have to do is prove somebody else is wrong. And then the default then, because we're all hyperbolic and dichotomous, if you're wrong, I must be right. And so what you need to develop and change is, no, you're wrong, right? You're wrong. No, you're wrong. Why are you being wrong? Why are you being wrong? So that's something you really got to develop and think about, because in that situation, that's not a misunderstanding. That is somebody who understands perfectly what you are about and is just messing with you. And they might just literally be doing this on purpose, just standing there, just waiting for somebody to snap back at, right? So it's like, why are you being aggressive? I'm not being aggressive. Typical man just doesn't see the woman. What am I? Am I just like not here? Go ahead, you know, patriarchy, you know, and rape culture, right? That things can escalate quickly when you're dealing with a Karen. And so it's just sort of like, no, you don't know, lady, you don't know the first thing about me, but I do know, just by your behavior, something about the history of all the men you've ever been with and your poor choices and the men that you choose to associate yourself with over the last decades. And that has shaped your perception of men such that apparently I can't buy milk without you perceiving some sort of microaggression. But again, that's not my fault. That's your poor choice in men, right? That would be a proper retort to somebody else. And that's not you being mean. That is, remember, like I said, I don't think I only gave one of the hacks earlier, sorry. So, yeah, you know, if you're wrong, I must be right. And then the other hack is, whoever is the most confident wins the argument, period, right? Arguments are all about confidence. It's strictly posturing and behavioral. So that's how you can have all the right facts and lose the argument, and you can totally be wrong and win the argument. That was one of the defining traits of the Trump presidency and what drove everybody crazy. It's, this man is wrong. No, he's wrong. He's absolutely wrong, and he's acting as if he's not wrong. Well, that's how you win the argument. Like, your frustration is the real world evidence that you are losing, right? And that's why it felt so bad for certain people, and it felt so good for certain people, right? It felt good for people because some of us are just sick and tired of hearing it from know-it-alls. And I know that because I tend to be a know-it-all. There's plenty of people sick of me. And I'm doing what I can to not be such a know-it-all, but I can't be a purposeful idiot either. But you know, those are real phenomenons. And so now I forgot where I was going with this, because I forgot the original one, because I'm no longer taking my ADHD medication. And hey, look, a squirrel. But you get, I hope you get what I'm saying. This video's, I'm already at 9 minutes and 45 seconds. I'm not redoing this. I'm keeping it. So please like, comment, or share. And in the future, I'll post a correction if needed.